Christensen Agate exotics. It's been a lightning rod topic in the past few years for collectors, and for good reason. And today we're joined here with Rich Stremme, who has offered to address the issue from his own exotic experiences. Thank you, Rich, and welcome.
So my connection or initial introduction to exotics is I went out to Ohio to, I forget if it was the winter or the summer show with my dad. And we had a room in the back of the hotel, farthest back. And at some point, somebody walked through, said, "What do you think of this?" And it was a knockout Christensen. I was wowed by it. I was like, wow, that's a name and price marble.
Yeah.
Sick. And struck up a friendship, and that was the first exotic that I ever saw. So,
And what year was that around?
I'm guessing around 2000.
Okay.
Something, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah,
Okay.
So I was involved from the get with, them showing up in the first appearance at shows. I remember early on when they appeared as well, I got to ride shotgun in a Camaro to the Christensen factory site, poke around, see the new construction, which is part of the exotics where they came from story. And so yeah.
That was also the same time frame?
Same time frame, like winter and summer when they first made the appearance to the marble community at a marble show.
Okay. And they started calling them exotics, right? So
Yeah, so exotics, like, I don't know if they call them that from the start, because the first marbles I saw were like known marbles, like a light green sub, striped transparents and striped opaques, but really vibrant, nice.
right. Transparents, yeah.
Yep. And I didn't hear the term exotic until it was like sort of a diss, like just a put down, like, oh, what do you think about the exotics? You know what I mean? So I guess the point of me doing this is just like, I've never, ever, ever doubted the authenticity of those Christensen marbles. If you want to apply the name exotic, it's a weird kind of term, because you could say, well, anything that's special that's not boxed could be exotic. However, you have guineas that are like, what can you get more exotic than an 8-color guinea that looks beautiful and was in a box? So to me, my personal definition of exotics are limited to that find, like that event that happened that unearthed those marbles. So the backstory, just to understand, is the Christensen factory site, right? I'm not sure what year or whatever, but for years and years, say 80, it's been a municipal town of Cambridge spot for storing salt, and there's a bunch of garage bays on it. So the story of the Christensen exotics find was that someone left their card with the construction company when one of those bays was being removed and a new structure was being put in place. So there was a limited time for marbles to come out of there. Like anybody who's going through, right, marble collectors nowadays, going through an antique mall, a spot, you leave your card. The one particular exotics find emanates from that one construction happening. After those Ohio shows, the first time that I went out to Amana, I think that was the initial time I heard any kind of like speculation, doubt, or whatever being put upon Christensen exotics. And I don't like speculating on people's motives and stuff, but I could say if the marbles were like dollar marbles, then I think the motive behind all the speculation and blah blah about them would have been completely different, because it wouldn't have interested people. Jimmy, you hate that exotic word, right? They call it exotics. They're like, yeah, they're putting them down. It just sucks. It really sucks. And 20 years later, oh my God, it makes my brain hurt to have to hear the same blah blah put downs about something that is easily debunked if we just apply a little bit of brain power, a little bit of research, and then a little bit of connect the dots between colors, glass, and styles of marbles.
Patterns, yeah.
Yep.
We're going to get down to business with Stremme.
All right. So number one, now it's time to take apart the blah blah. Okay?
Yes, sir.
The top arguments or statements that I've heard about exotics that we can debunk right now. Number one, big argument. There was no cullet, half marbles, shards found of exotics. So, 3 things I'd like to say in response to that. Number one, if we take a scan down the business cards of marble collectors from back in the day, notice one thing about every single business card. And reminder, a business card was left with the construction company to get access to these marbles. Does any business card say, I buy half marbles, shards of glass, broken glass? No. Every card says marbles, marbles, just marbles. So number one reason why no cullet, no pieces, it wasn't asked for. Go look. I'm sure there's some under the building. So from my first trip out there, I found, a little darker. Now that's an aqua or whatever, and then the cobalt blue. What was neat is somebody gave this to me later on, which if you backlight it, it really, you could see blue-green. You can't quite.
I can, yeah.
How do you make teal? It's equal parts of blue and green, make teal.
Right.
So it's like Christensen had blues and greens in a multitude of marbles, from guineas to Blu-rays to slags, in both green and blue. So teal is not a stretch, you know what I mean, at all. Point number two to take that apart. Pre-existing book, pre-exotics, right? The second edition came with this pop-out photo, which was extra cool, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
But these are established Christensen find, never any doubt. Never any slag thrown at it that like, oh, it's an exotics find. No, this is an established find. Doesn't specify where from, but you could bet from the same source, from the factory site. If marbles weren't boxed or in other people's collections, whatever, that's where they came from.
Exhibit B, orange peel, cullet, and 2 marbles from the David Lenz collection. Super obscure, black opaque base with orange and yellow triangular patches. Found, dug on site just before the exotics finds. And like many of the exotic finds marbles, there are one-off discoveries.
People say, well, there's guineas and there's cobra cullet, and that, of course, those are production marbles, right? So it makes sense. More of them were produced, there'd be more errors, there'd be more to dig through. Just understand speculation of, we don't know exactly how the factory, or I don't, was laid out and what was done where and what happened after they folded and what the fire did damage to. So it's an assumption there are marbles all over that property. There's still a couple of old garage bays there, but the biggest construction unearthed the bigger spread of marbles. So criticism number 2 of exotics. They've never been seen before. Again, research, thinking cap. This book came out before the exotics find. In the descriptions of the big spread, you have names like Blu-rays identified as a transparent cobalt-based marble with orange. These are 2 of the more exceptional Blu-rays that I picked out over 20 years of handling them, etc. So they have a little variety, a little bit of like lighter orange, darker orange, etc. Right? Another marble identified in the Grist Book of Marble spread. Submarines, transparent green glass with orange, yellow, and maybe etc. So same thing, light green and dark green subs. So same is true of sand layer, layered sand. To me, those aren't true layered sands. I thought that it was specific to a certain color. Now it's kind of attributed, like anything that's in that layered sand look like stacked layers in a jar is considered layered sand. So I would call them layered sand style. And if we put that in reverse, right, that same logic, look at these. You have orange peels. It's black with the orange. I've never seen them besides this find. Rockets, which I don't know what the name that didn't stick. Also Figers, another name that didn't stick. Translucent black and electric orange, right? So, but my point is, these are marbles that were found when this stash of marbles was found, used for the book, printed, and a lot of those
documented,
were never seen since. Why? Because they're all non-production marbles. And who is to say where the marbles landed, how fast the depression, along with the fire, etc., killed the operation? There's so many variables you can't know. But how do I know that they are good, that they are not reproduction marbles? We'll take a deeper dive. The one thing we didn't say, just keep in mind, all of these were from the exotics find, needless to say. The last big argument was they were all mint. there was no damage, whatever. Here, just last little thing, I didn't collect many damaged marbles, but here's an example. Besides marbles that had annealing hairlines, etc., it's a gorgeous, came out of the exotics find, but if you look, you could see damage, likely as made.
Imperfections
on the other side,
surface.
same thing, near the seams, pop out some kind of damage from the exotic find from that one time.
Here's some black specks, and you see these just randomly showing up.
I don't know if it was splatter from something or it was hot molten glass. I don't know. I have no idea. Or little pieces of dark cinder or brick.
Like
I don't know.
Right here. There's some down in the green there.
I mean, I just never noticed on another company, and it's like something that definitely runs. It's a trait that runs through of many styles, different styles of marbles that were found at the factory site.
That there is a Christensen Agate right there.
Agate,
That's not even
Agate.
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 Agate. That's insane. That kid.
Yeah, he says funny. He says agate. He says.
All right, we're back with Rich Stremme in the underground, talking about underground stuff, right?
Yeah. So final installment. Frame it in positive, and how can you be 100% sure of like your Christensens being authentic Christensens? Again, it's gonna come back.
Spend a lot of money. You want to.
Yep.
You want to be pretty sure.
Yep. And as always, it comes down to three basic things, right? Like look at color, look at pattern, see similarities, and then trust who you're buying from. You know, so let's take a look at color. Basically, first off, big thing, right? Like we said in previous videos, if you have a guinea that's a full palette, like 6, 7, 8 colors,
right?
You got a great marble to work with to see what the palette was for Christensen Agate. So here we have a few of the repeats, right? First off, we have a blue-based single or 2-seam guinea. Just has a lot of little tiny speckles.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. So you got a good spread of oranges. And one thing to note on Christensen marbles, you see a dark orange and a light orange, and then a true red. And so this guinea has both the light and the dark oranges, and it's the cobalt background. So you compare it to a Blu-ray, and you check that you have the same
color
oranges.
recipe.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what helped me. And also, like, we can take a look at that structure as well, because look, you have some guinea dots that show up just in the striping of that. That was what made that particular Blu-ray like extra special to me. Besides like the variegated orange where you have light, dark, and medium.
Right.
Hey, Jim's stealing the
Hey,
show.
Jimmy, what are you doing?
Stealing the show. Oh yeah.
You gotta get on film.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Here you have just a really neat from the exotic find, and then standard guinea. Reason why I pulled this clear guinea is because it has the yellows, and particularly that yellow base that you see in the electric yellow slags. But just for comparison's sake, like I said, you can see this marble just has a little bit of an extra blend of line in with the same base, and then just that one lipstick red smile going, haha, we know better about exotics.
Yeah, and there's the same colors showing up here, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's the last one.
That one was considered that's an exotic in the middle.
This standard swirl, this was gotten at the first New England marble show I ever went to in Massachusetts, Bert's old show.
Yeah.
Right? This at the New Jersey show.
That's a cobra.
Right? Yep.
That's
or
beautiful.
A little cyclone cobra. But again, the oranges, here's black base. But even on a black base, instead of clear or just that yellow base, you could see the same color palette, right? The exact
identical.
Same. Yeah. And so like that was one of the reasons why it was just a joke to me that people saying like, oh, they came out, they were made on a machine. You know, a modern machine. Well, if you had the modern machine, if you ran it to the same old specs, you'd have to have old glass to run it with exactly, right?
You'd have to have the right recipes for color.
Same, everything. Here's a last little look. Exotic, early exotic that I got, right? This actually came through Les Jones. Kind of neat, had the pink, so that was different, but black, other colors seen before. That pink was criticized as not Christensen, you know, whatever. So again, apply it to that machine kind of theory. There's somebody with a new machine doing this stuff. Answer me how they got the furnace brick in the marble. You know what I mean? It's just too much. Like, yes, there's logic to say, okay, maybe somebody has a machine, but it's a further stretch to say, yes, and they all had period glass to use. And then even a further stretch to say, like, and they happen to incorporate the same glitches, errors. Come on.
Marbles is in here?
A bunch of them, yeah.
Oh, really? Let's see them. Can you find them? Oh, those are all yours?
Yep.
And these are from the exotics find?
This one is. This one isn't.
Wow. And how are they labeling it? Just swirl.
Christensen Exotic. That was actually a 2-seam.
Yeah, they're just
This was a swirl style sub, like yours, your translucent, but translucent blue.
Oh, cool.
Because that was also one of the early criticisms when teal was a base that came out in the exotics. They were like, it's never been seen before, and I had this before. All right, last but not least, we're going to play a little game and see how well you do.
I don't know how well I'm going to do.
What happened in this game?
Okay.
Pick the fakes from the reals. Pick the exotics from the true Christensen CACs. You have 4 choices. I could point out each unique feature to you. So that marble, right?
Yeah.
Won't give it away, all left to your devices. But that marble, classic, kind of like pattern, right?
Yes.
You'd think
Colors,
like, okay,
too.
Weird that the yellow comes out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Strangest thing about that marble, it's actually translucent.
Oh.
So weird, right? Never seen before. Must be the fake. This one, clear based. You got that creepy kind of orange through it. And then on this side, you have just about like, you know, that exact blues, reds from flames or swirls. But kind of striping through a really cool.
Yeah, it is nice, by the way.
2-seam open marble. Yeah. Here's another kind of flashy, right?
Very.
You got your light blue. You got some slag yellow that comes up again, right? And then just a really nice palette. 2-seam. Yeah. Again, you think it's opaque, but it's actually striped, translucent, transparent marble. Yep. Last one, notice. Peewee. White and orange in clear. Again, have you ever seen it before? Oh my God, which ones are fake, which ones are real?
Well, if I may, I'm going to say they're all Christensens, but what do I know?
Yeah.
I just make YouTube videos.
That was the rub of the game. And I could tell you, this surfaced in Ohio the first time I was ever there. Only one I've ever seen, but is clearly an old style marble, has nothing to do with the exotics. This one, no, it didn't come out of the exotics find. This was found at the factory site by a close friend, by his dad, I believe, under a board. And just, you know, unique. I haven't seen another weird run of a slag. This was an exotic and actually came out of the Blake Rhodes collection. And last but not least, the peewee that you think would be, what's funny is, no, it is not an exotic. And if you refer back to that grist book, it says clear, red, and white slag. They didn't name it, but yet another marble that was familiar and not, oh my God, it's new. Nobody's ever seen it before. Thank you for playing.
Good points. Thank you for sharing all of that, Rich.
Yep. And of course, last but not least, anyone who would love to take this up with me live and in person, I am always available at marble shows. Make the trip to the Midwest, and I would love to have an in-depth discussion with you. Bye.
You're foaming at the mouth.